If you've been wondering what are the potential signs that could be pointing you or telling you that you need to start your meta ads for your business, well, I have a guest, as you can see if you're watching on the YouTube channel. She is none other than my wife and Facebook ad manager, Jamie, and she's going to be asking me the questions today, kind of like interview style, and we're just gonna have a conversation between the two of us and you, kind of. And so you'll walk away from this episode knowing if you should start Facebook ads for your business, because I can tell you right now, they're not right for everyone. And just because like we're meta ads managers, Facebook and Instagram ads managers, like we don't preach everyone needs to do ads right now. Like it's the way to grow your business. Absolutely not. And so I hope you enjoy this episode.
Thanks for having me. So this is a question we get all the time. It's August. It is going into launch season. Lots of people are launching a new course or product. And so when is it a good time to start running meta ads? That's the main question of today.
Yeah, and I've given this talk too. Like it's been cool speaking in a couple of groups for other online course creators or launch strategists, and I've gotten that question there too. So like the trick is you can launch ads after your offer's been converting organically. Like I love to say like Jesus saves, ads do not. And so
Okay, but what does that mean? How do we know if it's been working? What kind of numbers should we be looking at?
I'll get there in a moment. The
Okay.
first thing is do you have an offer that sells? If the listener has an offer that sells, and like what do I mean is it selling? And it needs to sell well too. Like when they are putting their offer up in their Instagram stories, maybe they have mini chat linked up to Instagram reels or graphics posts, and then there's a call to action that says DM me whatever phrase for this course, like is it selling a good amount that way? What about like when an email is sent out to the email list? Like, are people buying? One of my clients is launching a new offer, and I had to remind them, 0.1%, maybe 0.2%, but 0.1% of an email list is going to buy the offer.
Wow.
Yeah. So keep that number in mind. Also, listener, like, level your expectations out. If you do, then you won't be so disappointed. But like, does the offer sell when you send an email, like automated email sales sequence to it? Or when you're launching it, does the offer sell? That's the first sign.
So my next question is, speaking of email lists, should you have a certain number of people on your email list in order to be able to launch effectively or in order to be able to run ads effectively? I know some people say they do really well even with a smaller email list. Can you give us maybe some generals of numbers, email list numbers?
So when I run ads for my clients, like one audience that I love to use, a cold audience, which is just an audience that hasn't yet entered into their business ecosphere. It's a lookalike of their email list.
Right.
Because we try to create these audiences in order of value or
Mhm.
potential value, right? And then build lookalike lists inside of Facebook. And all lookalike is when you tell Facebook, hey, I have this audience, go and show me 2 million more people that are very similar to the people in this core or custom audience. And so,
Which is still just crazy to me that it can do that.
well, they know, Meta knows more about us than we know about ourselves,
I
right?
know, and I
Yeah.
know we're in 2024 and it's all this information that's out there, but it still is kind of just crazy
I
that it
know.
can do that.
I mean, quite honestly, like not every morning, but some mornings when I log into Facebook Ad Manager, now they're like, "QUAY.jo, you're lying to us." No, but the thought sometimes crosses my mind, like, will this keep working? Like one client, every morning I log in and I look at her SLO funnel
Uh-huh.
because we're running ads directly to something that costs $67 and it's converting profitably for her,
Wow.
which is great, like right now it's at like 1.76 return on ad spend, as in
Wow.
we give them $1 and they give us back $1.76. But like last month it was above 2,
Wow. Mm-hmm.
and averages. And so it's like every morning I log in to be like, is it still working? It's still working. All right. You know? But yeah, Facebook Meta knows more than we know about ourselves. 52,000 data points
Wow.
actually is what they collect. Like
That's incredible.
I can't even think of 52,000 pieces of data on me, but suffice to say it's way past like what post do you like? What
Right.
post do you not like? Like they know like what percentage of time you spend on everything you look at. Like as you're swiping through your feed, like how much do you slow down? by to
Wow.
look at stuff, even if you don't look at it, you know? And then what kind of content is that? They got it categorized. And then also, like, what are your patterns? Like, what are you looking at 7 posts after you looked at one post, you know? Like, what statistically keeps you on Instagram the longest? Like, we like, at least, well, maybe you
They
don't,
know our vices.
but like, I have, it's not just that, but it's like, what do you look at, you know? All the
Right.
posts after. It's like, and your longest sessions, like, what started those? What
Right.
ended those? Like, they know everything. So,
Wow.
yeah, it really
The
is.
kids ended it usually for
It's
me.
kind of crazy, right? Hopefully they're not listening and they can't hear like mom, mom, mom in the background. So lookalike audiences, and you asked me about email size, so
Yes.
email list size. But probably if you're going to run Facebook ads, you can run Facebook ads with no email list just fine. Maybe you already have a built-up Instagram social media following or Facebook following, and then you can just tell Facebook, hey, showed my lead magnets to people who look like my Instagram followers
Mm-hmm.
or my Facebook followers. Or maybe you blog and you have a great readership built up, in which case you give Facebook an audience that is the people who've looked at your website in the past 180 days and you show to that kind of
Right.
audience. I think your email list question stems from, like, if you're going to target a lookalike of your email list, what's the
Right.
minimum email list size you need?
Right.
And that would be around 600 people.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Yeah, I've
because
always heard 500 or so minimum.
yeah, it's because Facebook needs enough people in the custom audience, or how I like to call it, the core audience, to build a solid lookalike audience of that, right?
Right.
And so, what a lot of people don't know is that when you upload your email list to Facebook to make a lookalike audience, Facebook is actually matching your email list to existing users on Facebook. So, it's not like all 600 people on an email list are used to create like a lookalike audience.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe it's 60 to 40% of that 600. And because my calculator's not here, I'm not going to do math on that, but it's 40 to 60%. And so,
So in
yeah.
that range. Okay.
So that's one sign, though, that a business should or could be ready to run meta ads is, does their offer sell organically? And so another sign, is there a funnel in place that converts at 2% or more? That's a really great sign. In fact, it's one of the signs that I have on my Facebook ads application.
Mm, okay. So for people who are newer and who are considering this, and maybe you're just getting started in your business, can you explain to us a little more in detail? What is that funnel? What does that mean? What does that look like? Break it
Well,
down for us.
conceptually, when I say funnel, I just mean like a way of converting leads into sales. Specifically, that funnel could be a launch that happens 3 times a year, 4 times. Well, 4 times would be a lot. 3 times a year, 2 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
And, or it could be like a self-liquidating offer funnel. I like to say SLO funnel or slow funnel. I think you had that question. You had that question for me when you just got started with
Right.
ads.
I was like,
Like,
what's this
what's a
SLO thing?
slow
What
funnel?
does that mean?
What did you guess it meant? You had a funny guess.
Oh, I did have a funny
What was
guess. What
that?
was it? It was something
It'll come
about
to
like
you.
something leads
It'll,
offer. I
it'll
don't know.
come
I
to you
was just
though.
guessing
I
at that
basically
point.
I was making her sweat a little bit because I'm like, what does it mean, Jamie? You've taken an ads course. You've come into my office and picked my brain on running ads many
I
times.
just
Like,
couldn't remember in
what
the
is it?
moment what
What does it
SLO
mean?
stood for. There's so much jargon and all the lingo
Right,
and trying to keep
right.
all these things straight. So,
The blessing of running ads with my wife is that I get to help her out as she learns. And I mean, you already have a couple of your own clients that you run ads for, and you do quite a good job. So the funnel, another funnel would be the SLO funnel, self-liquidating offer. That just means you're running ads to usually a low ticket offer, could range from like $17 on the low end to say $67 on the high end.
okay.
And when I say 2% conversion rate, I'm just talking about 2% of the leads that you run through the funnel convert to sales.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're launching and you sign up 500 people for the launch, then 2% of them convert into sales.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that leads me to my next question then.
Wait, we're going to give you numbers, by the way. You're going to get numbers about how to tell if you do have a converting launch, if you have enough profit per generated by your launch to start running ads. But before we get to those numbers,
Okay,
what's your next question?
back to my question then.
Yeah.
So maybe your business has kind of what QUÄY.jo was just talking about, more of a low ticket offer, anywhere between, I don't know, $10 up to $100. Maybe you have something smaller,
Well, not 100, maybe 67.
60
Yeah.
something. Okay. Or perhaps you have a really high ticket item, a course or product that you are selling a membership even. So can you run ads even if you have more of a low ticket item, so to speak? That's maybe $70 or less.
Well, sure. Yeah. It
Okay.
all comes down to, can you run ads? You can run ads to anything.
Right.
It's,
Right.
can you run ads profitably? And the profitability of ads really doesn't have to do with the ads. Like, yes, we ad managers have our ad management tricks, like
Hmm.
what differentiates a good ad manager from like a bad one? Like a good ad, well, one is a lot of communication with the client, and two, it's like the number of tools you have in your ads management toolbox to correct ads when things go wrong. Because it's kind of like
Hmm.
surfing. You set up your ads in a good standard way, and then
Right.
you start to ride that wave, and once the wave peters out, then you got to start going through your ads management tricks to find
Hmm.
the next wave.
Right.
Yeah, you can run ads to low ticket
Okay.
or high ticket. It all comes down to how good that offer is.
Right.
How desirable is it? And then also, you could have a stellar offer, but just crappy messaging,
Uh,
which really affects how your ads will work. And like, I might as well say this right now. People will come to the ad manager, and often the ad manager like gets the blame like when an offer's not selling, but it's like the ad manager isn't responsible for your messaging. Your market research into the people who do business with you and could do business with you and come to you to learn from like the passion and the gift that you have, that's responsible for the
right.
messaging.
Right.
And not to pass the blame off, but the messaging is really, really important. In fact, like when ads aren't working as well as they should be because, an ad is going into decline, like we
Hmm.
will refresh the ad copy. And
Right.
what are we doing? We're refreshing it according to the frustrations that the client has like gathered from their customers and potential customers based on like the core problem that their offer solves. So,
Right. It's very important to find that ideal customer avatar
yeah,
and yeah,
yeah,
hit those pain points, or what are they desiring? What is this person looking for? So
right.
yeah.
And maybe here's another thing though, Jamie. Maybe the listener is like, okay, but if they want to run ads to a self-liquidating offer, maybe they're asking like, what's the highest price point they can do?
Hmm.
Which I have not successfully done it to want an offer that costs more than like $97. I think I
Right.
did have a client. No, that's not true. I did have a client that had like a $127 offer. In general, to make these things work, you're showing like these ads for like an SLO funnel to a cold audience, right?
Hmm.
Because if you just show it to your warm audience, yes, you will make sales, but a warm audience is really small and rather limited.
Right.
And so somebody who doesn't know the listener and their offer and sees an ad first time ever from them
Hmm.
to buy something, the lower the price, the better.
Right.
And so
True.
like that sweet spot's, generally right around $27, $37. The higher you go in price, the better your messaging must be, the better your sales page must be, the better your offer must be,
True.
period. So
Makes sense. All right. So my next question, how do you know if you're ready to run meta ads? Because I know that people are thinking, okay, but what if I don't have that much to spend? Let's talk budget. Okay. Because this is always,
mm,
can be a tricky point, right? Of, well, how much do I spend? Maybe I'm a smaller business. This is maybe my first time running ads. So what if I'm not comfortable spending a lot? Or I know there's some businesses that spend thousands and thousands a day, and they're like, I just don't have that right now. So can I still be profitable, or would it still make sense for me to run meta ads even if I can't spend that much?
well, the context here is that like the business already has a converting offer.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
I'm thinking back to like one of my clients that I had for a time. They were spending quite a bit of ads money every month, but like they knew for their lead costs that if they could bring in leads at a certain amount, then
Mm-hmm.
those leads would be profitable.
Right.
So I guess what I'm saying is they knew their numbers. And so they knew also predictably because they had done it enough that
Mm-hmm.
when because they had several different kinds of products for sale that they launched, but they
Right.
knew like when they launched their membership that what percentage of leads came from their email list,
Mm-hmm.
that were already on their email list. They knew what those leads would be worth, as in the percentage of the leads that converted into the membership. And so thus bought like the first month of the membership, right?
Right.
They also knew then like what those leads were worth, and then they also knew the lifetime value of
Right.
those leads.
Right.
And so they were able to start from revenue generated from their launch mechanism, and they calculated how much the leads were worth who signed up for that launch.
Mhm.
When I say launch mechanism, I just mean like, is it a challenge? Is it a boot camp? Is it a workshop? Is it a webinar like the launch,
Right.
right?
Okay.
And so they
Mhm.
knew how much their leads were worth. And that's the thing. Like, if you're doing, like, if the listener, you are doing your ads the first time ever, then it's what can you afford to lose? And that sounds
Mhm.
harsh, but it's true. If
Mm.
you haven't run ads before, then don't start out with an amount that you can't afford to lose. It is
Right.
very much, I do not recommend if you're like, especially if you don't have a proven product, please don't run like $5,000 like on a prayer. Like,
Right.
we believe in prayer, not for ads. Okay. That is not a valid Facebook ad strategy.
Well, you also
Um,
you want to use wisdom, right?
yes, yes.
So
Prayer plus wisdom.
what makes sense?
So yeah, what can you lose, you know?
Mhm.
For some people, they can afford to lose like $300,
Mhm.
right? If they're going to venture into Facebook ads manager world
Mhm.
for themselves, like, okay, they can afford to lose 300, they can afford to lose 500. Like, I had one client who he came to me because I do the, I do the monthly or the 3 Facebook ads calls, one-on-one coaching with me over the course of a month where I get people's ads set up successfully, right?
Right.
And this guy wanted to run ads, and we did run ads to an offer, a paid offer, you
Mhm.
know? And one of the first questions I asked after I told him, look, self-liquidating offers are quite difficult. I'll tell you everything I know.
Mhm.
We'll look at your sales page, we'll look at the ads, like I'll review your ad copy and your graphics or your videos, but you have to understand, like, this is difficult. So what is the amount of money that you can afford to lose? And he was
Right.
like, I can invest like 1,000 into these ads. I'm like,
Mhm.
great. Remember that because we're going to do all the testing things that we need to do. But once we get there, if it's not successful, you need to seriously reevaluate.
Right.
Because I think that's a mindset that a lot of people also don't have, which
Mhm.
is they assume that Facebook ads works 100% of the time.
Mhm.
And it doesn't. It works if you test and test and test and test. But
Right.
like, I would say the majority of Facebook ads don't work. It's
Mhm.
that you test through a lot of different ads and you find the ones that do work. Somehow you have clients who your ads just like are great. When I say don't work, like if it's a lead magnet ad, like
Uh-huh.
how can a lead magnet ad not work? Of course it works, but you do have to test to get the lead cost
Right.
down and find the right kind of customer. Anyway,
Right. Can I add something on that?
sure, yeah.
So you said you have to spend what you can afford to lose,
Mhm.
but also what you feel comfortable with,
Yeah.
right? And so that, I mean, those kind of go hand in hand, right? But there's sort of like, well, even if I could spend, X amount, but I don't actually even feel comfortable with that amount, like you have to know for you what feels right. And for example, one of my clients, when she first started running ads, I mean, it's not a launch yet. She's just doing lead generation. And it was her first time running ads. And she's like, oh, this feels a little scary to like, be
Mhm.
spending 20 or so dollars a day. But just remembering that, right now her goal is to increase her reach, right? And to grow
Yeah,
her email list
yeah.
and all those things so that when it's time to actually launch, her membership or your course or whatever, that you have that bigger audience
Mhm.
to work off of, right? And so, yeah, so it's a whole process.
Yeah, it is, it is.
But yeah.
And, like, we're not gonna spell out the exact calculation here, but if you look at your launch and you say, "My launch generates this much revenue," great.
Mhm.
How many leads signed up for that launch? Because then those leads, if you take the launch revenue and divide it by the leads, you
Mhm.
know how much those leads are worth.
Mhm.
Great. Okay. Well, going off of like this stat, which is like 1 to 3%, maybe if you're super good at email, 4 or
Mhm.
5%, but 1 to 3%, let's call it 2% or 3% of somebody's email list will ever sign up for a launch
Mhm.
organically.
Right.
So remember that number, okay? If only 3% of your email list will sign up for your launch, and you know how much your launch registrants are worth because you backed that number down from or up from the revenue, then you can come up with a number how much each lead is worth on your email list. And
Mhm.
then from there, if you're running lead magnet ads, and I actually did this on a coaching call for a client in ChatGPT, it was pretty cool. Um, but then you can come up with a number like, okay, this is about like what a lead who gets my lead magnet is worth. And then there you go. When you're running Facebook ads, is your cost per lead lower than what that lead is worth to your business? And this is how businesses know what kind of lead cost they need to get.
Right.
Yeah, you can run Facebook ads to anything, but to do it profitably, you need to know your numbers.
Right. Right. And just remember, just because you get leads doesn't always mean that is a good lead. Right? Just getting random followers or people, like that's why we do the detailed targeting and all of those kinds of things. So
Yeah, research goes into ad copy and
right.
things like this. Okay, I said, you probably got more questions, but I said I would explain some numbers that will help you decide if you can run Facebook ads. And the two numbers that I want to explain are called earnings per lead
Mm-hmm.
and cost per lead.
Mm-hmm.
And so first, like earnings per lead, we did talk about it briefly, which is if you have a launch or if you are already running, this is going to be a different episode, but how do you know when it's time to scale your ads and by how much and how do you scale them? But
Right.
let's say you have a launch, right? And you take your total launch revenue generated and then you divide that revenue by the number of leads. That is your earnings per lead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I believe if you have $100,000 launch, six-figure launch,
Mm-hmm.
textbook, right? And you had 500 leads, then because math, that would be like $200 per lead is your
Mm-hmm.
earnings per lead. Are you happy? Are you
Nice.
proud of me?
Yeah, that's
It's
good.
because I
That's
did
good.
it yesterday for another episode that I recorded. So that number is fresh in my mind. I wish I could crunch numbers like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
$200 per lead. Great. Okay. So what that means then is you can pay with Facebook ads a good amount.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you have $10, if you have a $10 lead cost per every launch registrant for your Facebook ads, then great. I pay $10 per lead and
Mm-hmm.
I make $200 per lead.
That's
That would be
fantastic.
that's a fantastical scenario that may have existed for some well put together businesses 7 years ago. Like I don't
Yeah,
have
we're not
any
promising
clients.
that right
I don't have
now.
any clients who are making $190 per lead. I did have a client though who was making, she had a paid launch and her leads were worth like 120 something
Wow.
dollars. But to get them though, I think they were somewhere north of $75 per lead.
Wow.
Yeah. Actually, no, I have another client too who we're going into launch season actually. And we don't say names, but you know who I'm
Yeah.
talking about because
Yeah.
we just signed up for launch ads actually today.
Oh.
And her leads cost a good amount too, but they're highly profitable to her. So
Mm-hmm.
usually that happens in a paid launch situation
Right.
where because it's a paid launch, you have to pay more to get those leads.
So that's earning per lead.
Mhm.
Earnings per
Yeah.
lead. And then
And
what's
then you
the
need to
other
know your
one?
cost per lead.
Cost per lead.
Yeah. And that comes from Facebook ads. Like, what is your cost per launch registrant or your cost per lead?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just look at the gap. Is there a healthy profit margin between the amount that I'm paying for a lead and the amount that a lead is worth? And if there's not, then it's probably not a good idea. Like if you're paying like $5 per lead, but you're only making $6.50 per lead, like I mean, that's cool that you made a profit per lead, but how are you going to scale that? You know, like, are you
Right.
going to bring in 6,000 leads to your launch?
Mm.
That's a lot on the line, you know?
Right.
Like at $5 a pop, first of all, who has that kind of ad budget? And then well, plenty of people do, you know?
Right.
But if you're only making such a narrow margin per lead, then you need to look at your offer, maybe increase the price of your offer, see how that sells,
Mm-hmm.
or work on your ad copy or work on your sales page. Anything you can do to get leads for cheaper, you know, and increase that gap between your cost per lead and your earnings per lead. You know, that's where you work on your funnel.
Right.
You get more people showing up to your webinar. You make your webinar better so it converts better and all these things.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is a good cost per lead? I
No,
can't do that?
you can't do that.
Okay.
We're not falling into that trap.
Okay,
That's a
okay.
trap. That's a trap. It's well, when somebody asks me this on a discovery call, like I'm always like,
There
fine.
are a lot of factors that
I'll,
go into it.
it's just a trap. You don't get fixated on a good cost per lead because it varies per business and it
Right.
varies
Right.
per niche. Like, you know, when I run ads for folks who are in like a performing arts, not a performing arts, like an art, like they're artists
Mm-hmm.
or photographers, like, yes, I expect their leads to be cheaper or
Mm.
less expensive or more inexpensive. Which one is it? Less expensive or more inexpensive?
I think you could say either, but less expensive
Less
is
expensive
less confusing.
is less confusing because less expensive is more not confusing.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
But yeah, those leads for like an artist, somebody who teaches jazz, are going to be cheaper
Mhm.
than leads for somebody who's in the online business niche who is like a launch strategist or who teaches copywriting. These sort of heavily marketed to niches. So it really depends.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I asked it for you, okay? So in
Right.
case you were like, well, what is what should it be? Then I asked it for you. There was your answer.
Right.
All
So
right.
you
We
want to
gotta
lower your cost per lead. Make sure that you're testing ads and
right.
testing ads very well. And also make sure that you're not making just some of the very easily rudimentary Facebook ad mistakes inside of Facebook Ad Manager. And you can also hop on a call with me. It's a one-on-one coaching call. It happened over 28 days. There's actually 3 calls where we'll look at your ads, we'll look at your funnel, identify the spots in your funnel where they can improve, where your funnel can improve the best, so you'll work on that. And then in between the calls, you get unlimited access to me. So you can record your screen and show me your ads and say, QUAY.jo, what would you do in this case? And I'll be like, I would do exactly this. And then you have successful ads and you're able to run your lead magnet ads successfully
Yeah.
from the get-go.
Yeah. And he's good. I hear him on these calls as I'm walking by, and he's walking people through step by step, and they're like, oh, this is so good. I could have never done this by myself.
I'm like,
So
she's supposed to say that.
I know. I'm not just
She's my
saying that
wife. But if you
because
follow me on Instagram, then you probably have seen testimonials from people who have
yeah.
coached